InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Sharon Weinstein. Welcome.
Thank you, Jay. It's really nice to be here.
Well, if you need balance in your life and you want to live healthier, you're going to want to listen to what Sharon has to say. Sharon is the author of, this your 13th book?
That's the 12th.
Oh, the 12th book. B is for balance, and then the subtitle is A Nurse's Guide for Enjoying Life at Work and at Home. First, let me tell you a little bit more about Sharon. Sharon is passionate. Sharon's passion is to help people live longer and live well. Sharon practices the work-life balance that she preaches. Sharon is the author of this wonderful book, B is for Balance, 12 Steps to Achieving Balance at Home and at Work. Now, before the show, I was looking through the book, and I noticed, number one, it's published by the Nursing Association.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's quite an honor. The Honor Society of Nursing, that's what it says at the bottom. But then also I noticed that you've got a lot of initials after your name. So it says MS, RN, CRNI, FACW, and last but not least is FAAN. What do all those initials by your name mean?
Some would believe that the more alphabet soup you have after your name, the more important perhaps you are. The letters themselves, in general, I started out as an RN, but you always put after your name the highest degree earned. So I have a master's degree in health administration and gerontology. Mm-hmm. I then have an RN. CRNI, the C always denotes certification in a specific specialty practice. Mm-hmm. And my practice, before I became so enmeshed in the concept of work-life balance, was very invasive. It was intravenous therapy, infusion therapy. So certified registered nurse in infusion therapy. And infusion therapy includes technology and clinical application, patient safety, infection control.
And was it your first 11 books about that subject?
About 8 of them were about that particular subject. Yes, they were. And FACW was a fellow of the American College of Wellness. FAAN is perhaps the most prestigious title, if you will, in nursing, and it's a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. Well, I was inducted into the Academy in 2000. At that time, there were less than 1,000 fellows worldwide. Now there are approximately 3,000.
Wow. And then I notice your book has Barbara Dawsey's endorsement, and Dr. Larry Dawsey, the internist, has been honored by Infinity. He's taught workshops there. How did you hook up with Barbara Dawsey?
Well, Barbie and Larry are colleagues of mine. I met Barbie through the American Holistic Nurses Association, and Barbie is a past president of that organization. I had worked with her on a couple of projects through the International Council of Nursing in various cities across the world. She invited me to be an international advisor to the Nightingale Initiative for Global Health, of which she's co-director. And we became very close. We became good friends. I asked her if she would do an advance endorsement on this book, and actually she and Larry were so excited about the second edition of this book, which comes out shortly, that they wrote the foreword for the next edition.
Now, are you going to be teaching a class at Infinity?
I've already taught at Infinity several times. I've taught EMF sensitivity, the exposure to electromagnetic fields. I've taught adrenal fatigue this semester, and I hope to be able to teach next year as well.
Good. What's the topic of your class next year?
I'd love it to be something that truly relates to the concept of stress, because stress is actually related to the challenges in our environment, and people don't recognize the fact that over 90% of physician office visits are related to stress-induced symptoms. If we could possibly, Jay, get rid of a lot of those symptoms, we could minimize the amount of stress that attacks our body.
What are the stressors of the environment? Are you talking like poor quality of air, electromagnetic pollution, chemicals?
Well, there are various stressors. Some of the stressors that affect you are, in fact, your workplace. We call it sick building syndrome.
Okay.
So I have clients who go into a building and they say, when I go to work, I feel terrible. I
Yeah.
feel absolutely terrible. I can't breathe. My chest hurts. Everything hurts. But when I'm home in my own house, it's fine. Generally, we find that a lot of that is associated with the Wi-Fi or the technology or the EMFs, perhaps the smart meters, the overcompensation with electronics and the fixation that we all have today with electronics that keeps us focused on a pad or on a phone or on something.
I look forward to interviewing again on that, but let's get back to the B is for balance.
Okay.
How is the life-work balance barometer for our personal and professional well-being?
They're very, very tied. Some people say that we cannot separate our personal lives from our professional lives. It is indeed a challenge, but it can be done. It can clearly be done if you make appointments with yourself the same way perhaps that you make appointments with others. And if you keep those appointments. If you're unable to keep those appointments, sometimes you need an accountability partner.
Like keep a calendar?
A calendar appointment with yourself. And what are you going to do with yourself during that time? You're going to take time for you. You're going to learn that no, for example, is a complete sentence, and that it's okay to say no to things and take time for yourself.
What about, let's say, working moms, that are got very demanding jobs and they have young children at home, and they say there's not enough time. What do you say to a working mom?
There are not enough hours in the day, number one, and guess what? Being a mom is a working mom. It's a job without an outside job, so it's a job unto itself.
I agree.
And it's extremely, extremely challenging. But when that mom starts to combine that with work outside of the home and worry about daycare and more, and who's going to manage her children and who's going to be involved in perhaps an enrichment program after school and how those kids will get there, it is in fact stressful.
And
how do you manage?
Breakfast, lunches,
breakfast,
dinners,
lunch, dinner. Not all schools provide breakfast and lunch.
Yeah.
So sometimes, for example, I see my daughter-in-law get up very early to start packing lunches. It happens. That's what needs to be done. I think that it's very important, though, to recognize the fact that for you to be able to take a deep breath, to go outside, to take a walk around the block, even if it's with your kids, to walk the dog, to stretch, to exercise, to know that there are things that you can do for you, even if you only carve out 15 minutes a day, those 15 minutes will make all the difference in the world.
Well, Sharon, I've just met you, and I can tell right away you're very intelligent and very determined. Most people don't have what you have. So how do you inspire, say, your daughter-in-law or some other woman who doesn't have the drive and the smarts that you have?
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I basically work with my clients, many of whom are, in fact, moms who are challenged by full-time jobs and a household full of kids, by working with them to create a plan that enables them to carve out the time in their day. So to set a calendar that lets them look at, these are the things that must be done, and these are the things that could be done. Everyone has a to-do list of some kind.
Yeah.
It's either on paper or it's electronic. I always say to separate the things that must be done from the things that can be done.
Now, do you often find that your clients put can be done in the must be done categories?
Yes, I've done it myself. I did it for years. For many, many years, I was not balanced. Even now, sometimes I wonder if I truly am. And I wasn't balanced because I tried to be all things to all people. I never said no. I was on every committee and every program and everything. And finally, I realized that I had to pick and choose the groups with which I wanted to work, with whom I wanted to work, that I needed to decide which meetings were important for me and which were not. And a lot of that aha, if you will, came about when I became a grandmother. I knew that I couldn't continue to do what I was going to do and ever hope to have a relationship with my kids.
And so what are some of the can be done that are mistakenly put in the must be done categories.
A can be done. A can be done can be something like wash the car. Do we need to get the car washed every week? No. Can we hire somebody to do that? Yes. A can be done can be a simple thing like pulling the weeds. Does that need to be done every time that you're outside? Do you have to be so focused on the little shred of grass that's coming up between your pavers? No. Those things can actually wait, or you can hire someone else to do them.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, do you think we should keep our personal and our professional lives separate?
I think that they can be and should be in many ways, but then I also believe that sometimes they're intertwined. And it depends on what kind of a professional life you have. For example, I work with a colleague who provides coaching for family-owned businesses. If you have a family-owned business, it's very, very difficult to draw that line between what's personal and what's professional. It's hard to arrange downtime and time for yourself because the family is involved in everything. But in general, I truly believe that we should separate our personal lives from our professional lives. That we need to know when to walk out of an office, when to turn off that computer, and when to take time just for us.
And remember, the topic is balance, so you're balancing your work life and your personal life. But in a profession, the medical profession, or somebody does counseling, you know, it's part of the professional ethics that you don't have personal relationships with clients. Not that you don't care about them.
Right.
It's just
But you need to draw the line.
Right. Right, but there are other professions. Let's say a salesperson, you know, that you know, and entertaining is part of the job.
A salesperson might socialize with his clients, might play golf, might go out to dinner. The same thing is true of a hairdresser, of anyone from almost any walk of life. They might have their clients, their customers, as their friends.
Okay. Should we increase our workload to meet the needs of others and put ourselves at risk?
Never.
Never.
Never, ever, ever. One of the big challenges that we have in nursing is when nurses don't have enough money, what do? They add another employer or they add more hours. When they do that, they have no time for themselves. They do put other people at risk as well as themselves because they're working too many hours in a day, too many hours in a week, even too many hours per shift, and they cannot make that happen. We've seen in the literature and in the media all of the accounts of what happens in aviation, in transportation, when people are overworked and overtired. They cannot complete what needs to be done and do it safely.
And there's a cost to the health. I read an article recently online about a mother was working 4 part-time jobs and was catching some sleep in the car, and she left the motor running and she died. And now her children are without a mother.
Right.
Yeah.
But we hear about those things all too often.
Yes. Okay. Are there tools to use to juggle our career, home responsibilities, and more?
There are tools. There are a series of tools that one can use. The first one, of course, is breathing. Sometimes we don't take time just to have a deep breath. So inhaling and exhaling, relaxing while you're doing that is very, very important. Exercise. People don't recognize that they can exercise while they sit. They can exercise or jog while they're on a conference call. They can stay fit as they sit.
We'll talk about multitasking.
Yes, talk about multitasking, but you can still do leg exercises or stretches while you're on the speakerphone, while you're on that call, and you're still taking time for you. And you respond better while you're on that call because you're more relaxed during the process.
And more blood flowing to the brain.
More blood is flowing to the brain. You feel better about it. So exercise, deep breathing, movement, meditation, but I wouldn't advise one to do that in the workplace, but meditation as well is a really good skill.
Well, what about every employee is entitled to a morning lunch and afternoon break? What about, 5 minutes, 10 minutes during one's
break?
Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring that up because entitlement and what happens in reality are not always one and the same.
I agree with you.
So it especially happens in healthcare. In general, nurses will sit perhaps at a nurse's station and inhale their fast food and not drink enough water and be totally dehydrated and not feel well the entire day because they haven't taken time for something as basic as a biological break. Everybody needs a biological break at one time or another.
You know, I knew a nurse who was feeling overwhelmed between work and home, and you know, I said, well, go to every hospital. She was a hospital nurse. I said, every hospital has a chapel. Go to the chapel and sit.
And hide out.
Yeah.
Is what she should be doing.
And she'll find
turn off that pager, turn off that phone, and go find a place
she'll
to
find
hide.
out. Well, my sister has a home health care nurse. She's disabled, and her nurse is in her 70s, and I really attribute my sister still being alive to that nurse. And so she talked about how when she started, you know, they wore the white hat and the white uniforms. Can you talk a little bit about how, since you are a consummate professional, can you talk about how nursing has changed over the years when you started?
I can probably relate very well to the nurse who had the cap, because I too had a cap at one point in my life. You used to starch it, you'd wet the back of it after it was nice and hard and firm. You'd pull these little rosettes in the back and loop them and put this thing on your head with what we called at the time a brain patch, which was nothing more than a 2-inch square gauze with a bobby pin that you stuck on your head, and you attach this cap to it. All it really did was produce bald spots for the multitude of nurses out there who continued to use that same spot to attach this cap. Caps went by the wayside basically when they got in the way, of critical care equipment, when they really became more of a hindrance than a benefit. So nursing has changed from a standpoint of just what people wear. When I first started school, you wore a skirt. No one would ever think to wear pants anywhere.
Now it's mainly pants in different colors.
Yes,
not
it's
just
pants in different colors. It's usually scrubs. Sometimes you'll see a nurse in white and you know that that's a nurse. But in many institutions, you can't tell the housekeeper from the nurse's aide from the nurse.
Well, also
other than a badge.
There's males now. Males are entering the nursing profession.
We had lots of men in my nursing school program.
Oh, really?
In my nursing school program, which was Pennsylvania Hospital, for my initial diploma program, we had 42 men in our graduating class and only 21 women.
Wow.
It was the year that the school merged, and it was Pennsylvania Hospital School of Nursing for Men. Most of the men were between 3 and 7 years older than the rest of us. They had been medics in the military. They came into nursing because it was an entree into the field of nurse anesthesia. And nurse anesthesia paid much more than floor nursing.
Would you be considered a nurse anesthesia with what you did?
No.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't. I didn't go to nurse anesthetist school. I went to nursing school and then did a baccalaureate degree and then a master's degree, and then I also went to the Kellogg Executive Management Program.
All right. How does the work environment affect our attitudes?
A lot. If you go into a place where you feel the negativity while you're still in the parking lot before you actually enter the building, and you know that it's going to be another horrendous day, it affects your attitude, and that translates very easily to the people who are around you. When you're positive, other people are positive. When they sense that you're negative, or that you're a pessimist, or that you feel that everything is doom and gloom, no one wants to be near you, because everyone wants to be around people who feel well and who are positive and who treat others in a positive way.
How does one change the attitude before they go to work?
Okay, I actually teach about that often. And my concept is one of attitudes of gratitude. You sit in that car and you make a mental note or a written note of all of the things for which you're grateful that day. And the first note on your list should be, I am grateful that I got up on this side of the earth, because look at the options. The alternatives are not good. So just being on earth and being around is a really good thing. And that in itself is going to allow me to affect people in positive ways, to transfer my energy to them, and to have them respond affirmatively to me.
Now, sometimes employees experience a personality clash with other employees. So when you were saying gratitude, you could even be grateful for some of the good qualities of a person that one is having a personality clash with.
That's absolutely true. And there are conflicts like that in every workplace. Unfortunately, some of them turn into bullying situations, but in general, they're situations that can, in fact, be handled. So if you look beyond what you don't like about someone and try to find 3 positive things in each of those people with whom you work, or those you encounter during a specific day, your day will be so much more fruitful as a result of it.
Okay. What are some of the tips? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you gave some of them. What are some of the tips in your B is for Balance book?
Hydrate.
Hydrate.
Hydrate is a really serious issue, and it's serious because many people walk around dehydrated. When you're dehydrated, you get headaches, you have visual problems, you have balance problems, meaning physical balance problems. You get aches and pains and you don't feel well. People don't recognize the fact that if their knees hurt or their hips hurt and they take a couple of glasses of water, in general, the knee and hip pain will go away. It will disappear. Most people don't hydrate because they're afraid then they'll need a biological break and they'll be too busy to take one. But in general, people should drink 1/2 of their body weight in ounces of water per day just to meet their body's basic needs.
So
and that doesn't happen.
can
They
you-
drink soda, they drink coffee, they drink something.
They drink diuretics. Can you give me an example so that our audience could figure out, if they weigh 150 pounds, how many ounces of water should they drink?
Okay, if they weighed 150 pounds, they should be drinking 75 ounces of water per day. And it's easy. It's easy to do that. Get yourself an 8-ounce or a 10-ounce glass and note how many times you fill it and keep filling it repeatedly. Try to eliminate at all costs pop or soda. The reason that you want to eliminate those types of acidic beverages is because the blood that runs through your vessels has a pH or a potential to use hydrogen of 7.35 to 7.45. It is naturally alkaline. If you put acid into the human body, you get acid back out. And what happens? You've done nothing but increase the sale of little purple pills and other things on the market that help to deal with the challenges of acid reflux disease. It's like your computer. Jay, if you put garbage into your computer, you get garbage back out.
Yeah.
You want to keep the body as clean as possible. And water, hydration, is an easy way to do so.
Well, then how many times a day should a person urinate? Is it the same
not
for
how
men?
many- oh, I'm sorry.
Is it the same for men and women? Well, go
No,
ahead.
and it's not how many times, it's the color
Okay.
of the urine.
Okay.
If the urine is clear, you're doing a good job. If
Okay.
you see any sense of yellow, you're in big trouble.
Now, what about like hot beverages like tea? I've been a tea drinker for a long time. Love tea, and tea is often touted as benefits. That was one of the. You didn't say tea was a no-no.
No, I didn't, and that's probably because I drink a half a dozen cups myself
Okay.
each and every day, but I don't include that as my water. I still drink water.
Okay.
In general, I will drink a healthier tea, an herbal tea, or a lingxi tea, which has a lot of mushrooms in it, and it helps to restore the balance in the body, and it makes things work the way they were intended.
Well, I learned a lesson about water just by observing some bushes I put in. I put some bushes by a garage, and the water came off the garage, and these bushes were lush. And then on the very same day I put bushes somewhere else, they were horrible. And then I know this summer we've had an incredible amount of rain. I've had a bountiful garden, so.
I'll bet your weeds are also bountiful.
Oh,
Are they
yeah.
not? Yeah, I'll bet they are.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
You're growing everything. You suddenly became Jack and the Beanstalk, right?
Right.
The other thing that one should do to answer your question is sleep. It's
Yeah.
interesting that we spend 30% of our lives in bed, yet 70% of people all over the world have a sleep challenge of one kind or another. So basically, we're sleep deprived.
When you say sleep challenge, meaning they're not getting
They're
enough.
not getting enough hours. They're not getting a good 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night, restful sleep. Not sleep in which you have your cell phone under the pillow and you're afraid to miss a text and you're sending text messages back and forth throughout the night. Not where you're perhaps charging your cell phone or electronic device in the same room where you sleep. Not where maybe you have a power strip under the bed that is also depleting your body's energy stores and robbing you of the ability to also have a decent night's sleep.
Okay.
A good night's sleep means you put everything away.
Well, I notice like sometimes I'll sleep 6 hours and I just wake up and I'm just fine.
That's because your body is telling you it's had enough.
Yeah.
In general, we say 7 for men, 8 for women. No one's really quite sure why women need more sleep than men, but they never, ever get it. They're always the ones to pop out of bed first thing in the morning.
Well, taking care of the children. for
Exactly.
one.
And sometimes in this generation, elderly parents. Sometimes they're in the sandwich generation where they have small kids on one side and maybe aging parents on the other, and their resources are totally stretched.
And do you have any tips for mothers with young children, like just given birth? One of my neighbors is pregnant with twins. What would you tell to a mother with, 2 young children?
So she hasn't had the children yet, right?
Right.
Okay, I would ask her to hydrate and sleep,
Yeah.
to develop residual stores that will enable her to get through the first 3 to 6 months of the birth of her twins. But when she has twins, it's twice as much work, let's face it.
Some
So if
people would say it's 4 times as much.
It is. It's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
So she shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. None of us should.
Yes.
If we feel as if we need help, we need to say to somebody, gee, could you help me out and do this project with me? Could you partner with me on this? Would you mind taking care of this particular job so that I can move on to something else and make sure that I do it and do it really well? Sometimes we're afraid to ask for help. We think that maybe it's a negative reflection of us. But oftentimes it's not. It's recognizing the fact that our bodies can only be pushed so far.
Well, I like that idea about asking for help, and we're often taught to be self-reliant, or we don't have the courage to ask for help. I like that idea. Any other suggestions in your book? I noticed you had some tables, and do you recommend besides the calendar, putting up? Well, I'm just getting assigned 2 minutes left. Anything you want to touch on in the last 2 minutes that we haven't yet?
I think that it's really important to graph out or to create a table, as you said, of the things that you need to do each day, and then check them off so that you feel a sense of completion when that task has been done. You can cross it off your list and move on to the next thing. And just doing that small act means a lot. It's like when you're working with a young child and you say, gosh, in 30 days we're going on vacation. So you bring out a calendar and you have all the days, and you allow that child to go over and check off each day when each day has passed, and you get closer and closer to that date at which the vacation time begins. You need to do that for yourself as well. So
Okay.
using tables, using charts, exercising, deep breathing, meditation.
And these tables, do you keep them on the computer? Like I told you about my neighbor who's pregnant. She's got a big chalkboard, and she writes things down. Do you recommend, where it could be seen?
I think that whatever works for you, I like things to be very visual. There are various adult learning styles, but if you're a very visual learner, you want to see that checked off, and you don't want to go back to your computer and pull up that file just in order to be able to see it. So in my world, you would print it out, perhaps in color, and make big marks when things are done. Feel really good about that sense of accomplishment, about
Good.
having moved on to the next thing.
And I think it helps when you go to sleep. There's very little, no or little unfinished business.
Right.
Well, Sharon, I'm sorry, but we got to go.
I'm so
been
sorry.
been a pleasure. For more information about Sharon Weinstein, or B is for Balance, Infinity Foundation, or the Inner Quest talk show, stay tuned to the credits at the end. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. It's been a pleasure to
And the
interview
life
and meet
in
you.
balance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
For more information about this show,